or up to h'tשכ, which is now the unique beard in our Maimer that explains, following what he said in h'tשכ, how the beard happens בשלום in the two directions of melamayla lamata and melamata lamayla, namely as a result of gila yechida from above to below, and the engagement within the nefesh habahamis, the h'tשכ dusha, which is from below to above, hence the mikrovli, the close battle. So now we're getting the answer based on what we learned in h'tשכ. h'tשכ is the fulcrum of the Maimer, where he says that since the whole intent for why the h'tשכ dusha fell and are concealed, or in a simple language, why God hides himself, it's all in order that he should be redeemed. So therefore, there cannot be any ultimate obstacle. And moreover, the h'tשכ dusha themselves seek redemption, which means the world itself seeks redemption. And this is the Rabbi Mahayu Imodi, which is connected to the first beer of the Mittel Rebbe, that it refers to Yechida, but Rabbi means the many, because indeed, as he says at the end, that the h'tשכ dusha are concealed so deeply in Gashmius that it's a helem she'eina b'metzius, a concealment that can't even be identified. What is it that touches such a deep concealment that is not a metzius, that can't be identified? It's the yechida, which is also a level of the neshama. It's not a metzius, not an independent entity, not identifiable independently from the Eibishter. And that's the Rabbi Mahayimodi, therefore simultaneously, at once, refers to Yechida and refers to the h'tשכ dusha, the sparks of holiness deeply embedded, deeply concealed in creation. And what is revealed in the end is that the Rabbim were with me, the neshama, which means that all matters of the world, not only they do not, in the end, withhold the Jew from Torah mitzvahs, but on the contrary, assist him. And that's where we are in the world today, unprecedented in history, where government even assists in Yiddishkeit, in grants and so on, something undreamed of not too long ago. So בשלום נפשי מקרבדי כברבים ה'ימודי h'tשכ. So this is the part of בשלום נפשי, from the battle that surrounds me, for the many who were with me, בשלום שלום בירו שדי עבודה דברבים ha'yimodi, the peace that comes as a result as of the revelation of Yechida, as again the Mittel Rebbe explains, as we explained earlier, that this refers to the Yechida. You say it in the brackets, say Yechida hu b'shleimos. So here we're talking about when the Yechid is revealed in this perfect way, that the shleimus is that it embraces both virtues, as we said before, from above to below, to below to above. Having said what we did, we can see that we understand this. Through the avodah of Rabbi ha'yimodi, which is the gila yechida, as explained by the Mittel Rebbe Mizgal, so when the yechida, when the essence of the yid is revealed, and so this affects that the sparks that are found in Golus in the Reshus HaRabim, in the domain of the many, the other extreme meaning of the very same words, they are with me, that all along they wanted and desired to be elevated. And therefore, so therefore, the fusion of both movements seamlessly and perfectly. That the revelation that comes from above, from below, which is the Gila Yechidah, it also contains the virtue that the bidder is engaging the Tachten as well in his world. This elevation that the Tachten desires, it's calling out. In the Maimon Tavshin Yud Aleph, the words, remember that the explanation there was, which obviously is complements this, and at the chorus, one explanation is that the Tachten feels uncomfortable being a Tachten. Don't want to be in this place. So the Tachten wants to be elevated, so it engages the matter, but the actual bidder is because the Tachten confronted all of a sudden the truth of a Yid, and that's what has awoken. That's the true woke, friends. The desire to be elevated that was always there, the Tachten didn't even know, but was the cause of unrequittable disquiet. Likewise, the other way. So he just said now that the Bira Milamayla embraces the Bira Milamata. Likewise, from the other perspective, Shagama Bira Shmuderech Milamata Lamayla. What was the Maila when it's Milamata Lamayla? It's Bepnimius, you're truly transformed. That's what's happening. We have that Maila here. That the Bira Milamata Lamayla Beifin Shem is bad Lais Nagdashala Tachten. The opposition truly is nullified. Meaning, the Zesh is barely El Sifhei. That's what we said in Sifhei. There's a Maimon up there, I think. The corner should be page Ayin Zay, middle of Ois Tes. This that we said, referring to the drawback of the bitter bit mitzad the Tachten, and we said, Shagam lachlet bitter Tachten, since the Tachten is the one that has to agree, bitter bit echel mailo. So he's agreeing, but still, nishad adayin v'helim isnagdashala. In a very concealed way, he's still opposed, but there's no choice. You won the argument intellectually, emotionally. Even as Yirmiyahu says, not only you're right, it's right, but still, it is not me. Because at the end of the day, we said the chsaron is that the bitter is something which is imposed on him. It came because of this argument, because I met. But today I'm established by because the one who's elevating is invested in him and convinced him to do what? To be to go contrary to my natural nature, which is to be drawn downwards. Nefesh Habahamish is naturally drawn to physical matters. And now loving ruchnius, godliness, and as etzal the nefesh alikis Shabbos, but because nefesh alikis is invested in it, it's contrary to her nature, and that's what he says was the chsaron even of the bid of milamata l'mayla. However, now what we're describing now in the face of Gila Yechida, this chsaron does not exist. But when the bidder is in such a way, or rather the Tachten that we've exposed that the Tachten, even before the Mevara, the one who comes to enlighten him, has encountered him. The Avodas HaBirah, before the Nefesh Alikis engages even Nefesh Habahamish. Before it all began, it started here. He wants to be revealed. Now, this was very important oasis here. This was precipitated through the Gilo Yechida. That's not Islabshus Shalom Mavarid. That's Gilo Yechida. So it started with the Gilo of Yechida. In the face of the Gilo Yechida, the Tachton confronts for the first time and understands his own unrest and disquiet. It's a search for God. Now comes the Islabshus. It's the Mikrovli. And then the Islabshus is completely transformative. Then when his own elevation sparked by the Gila Yechida and the engagement of Nefesh Elikis is not something imposed on him, and certainly not contrary to him. So therefore, the elevation of the self, of the world, even the one that's being engaged in the discussions and it's intellectual, it's emotional, it's bikrovli, it's the daily grind, it's the daily battle, but it's a whole different kind of battle. While derech inyan ha'isabche, it's similar to Isabche, it's not the Tzadik Gomer, we're not becoming the Tzadik Gomer, but it's similar in italics. So Isabche is because it's touched a level within the self that has been waiting for this and wants this. So it's not snap your fingers, Gila Yechid, and now Tzadik Gomer. There's a battle to be. It's a whole different battle. Takeh Krov, but it's pod the Beshalom in Beshlemus. That is clear. Each one is required to think about this person, obviously. But you understand the general idea, folks? Huh? Yeah. Yud. Finish the Maimon. And we'll do a Chazorah. Yeah, let's finish the Maimon. Hini. It's known, Tanya Perek Mem Aleph, and this is the hemshech to the previous Maamarim that we learned. What's the whole avodah is to connect in simple language, heaven and earth. This is the unity of Sefer. In simple words, infinite and finite, transcendent and immanent, beyond and within. Kutshabricha is Sefer Kalalmi, the transcendent level of Elikus. Shchina is indwelling B'chinas Mala Kalalmi, and that's the whole Avodah. So this is what we're talking about here, because V'zeh Shama Yaakov Hushavti B'Shalom El Beis Avi. I'll return in peace, which we understand now. B'Shalom is the same part of B'Shalom Nafshi, and it's the Birani Tzutzitz, it's a Gila Yechid. And what is the result of that? Is V'hoya Havaya Lil Elikim. The result is Yichud Kutshabricha Shchintei, heaven and earth united. Shad the Avodas HaBerurim. So the Avodah Berurim in the brackets, which is conveyed in the word V'Shavti B'Shalom Beis Avi. I'll return in peace. What's returning? The Nitzutzei Kedusha are returning in peace. Al Beis Avi, to my father's house, which is Achsodas Hanitzutzis Lemekayram. There is return of the sparks to their source in the ever deepening way. The main avodah which the neshama came down to the world is this very thing. Avodas habirurim, as he says in Tanya Perek Lamed Zayin. So what's going to be the result here? Which is the yichud of havaya soiver v'elikim mamale, which is the tachlis hakavana, the whole intent. The whole intent is to create oneness. Between heaven and earth, Elyon and Tachta, Mashpia and Mekabel. V'yashloimar de be'etzei chidushim. So through the avodah of the Berurim in the two ways we described at length now, namely, from above to above, as exquisitely explained now in Ois test, which is Ches and test. That's again the fulcrum of the Maimon. in such a way that each oifen, which classically has a chsorim. There's a chsorim, as we explained. However, as we explained, now it's now without these chesronos. Each one has the virtue of the other. So since this pales what? The yichud of Sefer Mamale. So therefore, a yichud of Sefer Mamale b'shnei eifan. So now this ultimate kavanah of heaven and earth happens in these two movements seamlessly and perfectly. Both ways, this yichud. That the drawing down of Sefer in Mamale and the ascent of Mamale as it was to Sefer. I'm not saying this because it was spelled out for us in these tests. Such that each one incorporates the virtue of the other. Look, so this is a yesh leima. Like just sort of even have to think about this a little bit. At least I have to think about this. He's saying that this is that the whole avoid is the yichud of H'tshek. Is that not what we're talking about? We are speaking of that. It's not something else. So just sort of a little bit what. I mean, he's talking about the Netzutze Kedusha being elevated. You just have to get clear. I mean, the Netzutze Kedusha, I mean, in general, it's the Inyan of Shechina. In general, Shechina is still the Giloi of Elikus Lamata. Shechina is the source of it. And the Netzutze Kedusha he speaks of have gone through tremendous tzimtzumim, and he's alluding to even the Netzutze Kedusha that fell in Dvarim Asurim, in forbidden things that a Yid elevates to tshuva. That's not Shechina, classically. But obviously it's all bound up with it. Soidus of it is Malchus. So it's in many tzimtzumim. The Netzutze Kedusha fall in Klippe. The other fact here is Shviras HaKelim. And it just sort of just have to harmonize all of this. The general idea we're certainly getting, but the subtlety of Ichu Kutchablicha Shchinte and Birra Nitzutzis needs to be understood further, at least for me. General idea is clear. So let's go further. Now, now we'll understand the connection Dafka to Yaakov. Why he's saying this? Why didn't Avram and Yitzchak say it? To affect this bitter in such a way. Avram classically is only Milamayla Lamata, and Yitzchak is classically only Milamata Lamayla. Avram is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gvura. It's only Yaakov that's part of Bishalom Nafshi, because he's Tiferes, and therefore includes the Maila of both Ifanim. But that's not the point actually he says. See, he says because Yaakov is Gila Yechida, but that's bound up with Tiferes, which is Mushrish in Etzem HaNefesh. As he goes on to say, but Yaakov Dafka is both Mailas because they Gila B'chinas HaYechida, L'Mailim Akbola. This happens only through Gila Yechida, higher than Chesed, higher than Gvura, higher than Sevav, higher than the Malit, higher than Kutchabricha, higher than Shchinte. And that's Dafka Yaakov. Why? Because for Yaakov Nemar, as we learned in the previous Maimer, Faratzta, I'll send this to the Maimer. Yep. Faratzta Yoma, the Maimer, this Fabrengen. Faratzta Yoma Vakedem, it's a fine of an egg, but that Yaakov Dafka merits a nachla blimitzadim spread, burst literally, boundless inheritance without limits at all. That's Yechida. The Fisha by Gila Yechida, because by Yaakov was the Avoid of Gila Yechida, Krishna is Balil, we learned before the Maimer of the Vayazarach, the first Maimer of the Fabrengen. And how that's connected Dafka to what? To what? Fill in the blank. Dafka Yaakov is associated with what? Shabbos. And in Shabbos itself, Dafka Tchum Shabbos. And Dafka the union of Daladamas of Shabbos. Because Yechid is revealed Dafka in the Daladamas, Shem is Chutz the Tchum. That was the whole end of the Maimed. Now the Rebbe adds that this, we're not just talking about creation and the Eibishter, Nitutzik Dusha and Sefer Mamale, but Eden, that's the Tachlis. When you do it, the Shechina beginnes Malchus. So Shechina Yichuk Kutshe Bichur Shechina is Malchus. And Malchus HaKileles is called Neshamas Yisrael. Malchus, that's the level, all Neshamas, the repository of all the Neshamas, Knesset Yisrael, the great Knesset, the collective Neshamas Yisrael. K'mayim Arazal, reflected in Nigla, called Yisrael, B'nei Malachim. All Yidden are children of kings, princes. Why? Because that's Neshamas. Neshamas are Malchus, the Eibishter's bride, Malchus. Everything we said therefore now applies to Yidden, namely the Yichud, Kutshe Bricha, Ushchinte, when we speak about this unity. This means also Nichel Gama Yichud HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. It's the unity of the Eibishter Yidden, and he ends the Maimon with it because that's the whole Tachlis. The Shleimus HaYichud HaKadosh B'Shnei Yifanim. That the connection between the Eibishter and Yidden is in its Shleimus is both ways, God to us and us to God in this perfect way, which all starts with him, Gilui Atzmus, his Yichid, Hamshacha V'Hallah, drawing down in the sand, V'Yeshleim, and another Chidosh. Time, as this Maimer is said on Yud, this Maimer is based on two Maimerim. Maimer of the Fidik Rebbe, starting off the Maimer of the Bittul Rebbe of Yud Kislev, and the Maimer of the Fidik Rebbe that he said that the Rebbe's Chasana. The second Maimer, the Sheva Brachas. As explained at length in the Maimer. So the Rebbe concludes, therefore, that this is of the reasons, amongst the reasons, that the marriage of Yidden and the Eibishter Yilasid Lovoi, now is the Kiddushin, now is the betrothal. Since Matan Torah began the betrothal. But the true Nisui and the true Yichud will be when Mashiach comes. Why? Because this true Yichud we're saying now, in its perfection, from above to below, it is all me, it is not me, it is all him. So this is dafke through the Gila of Yechid. So now we're speaking the Yechid in each person in his pratis dik aveda. But the shleimus of it is when the Yechid HaKlolis, that Yechid, the essential core essence of all the Neshamas, is revealed, and that's embodied in Mashiach. That's what Mashiach is, Yechid HaKlolis. Amit is in the Faratzton, therefore that's the true bursting of any and all boundaries that separate heaven and earth, a Yid from the Eibishter, it's the Faneno. The Mashiach is described as the one who bursts, ascends, rises up before us, a Kodev Mamish, hence then will be the true Yichud of the Pod of Beshalom Nafshi, the true Yichud of Eden and the Eibishter in this seamless and perfect way, the Milas of Avodah and the Milas of the Gilui of Milamayla Gila Yechida. Yeah, okay. So an overview of the Maimer. So let's Chaim tell us. Let's look and see what he says in the introduction, just to, literally with a few broad brushstrokes tied all together. You don't have it, so I'm going to just read it to you. And then Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we start Pod B'Shalom Bossi Legani. We'll come back to these Maimarim. Okay. So just the broadest outline, and then we'll do a more detailed one. No, what I see it's not helping us here. So let's quickly go to the Maimer together. Yeah, so follow along. So we'll finish the Chazara tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow is Thursday, so we'll start Bossi the Gandhi Friday, 6 o'clock. That's a tough one, huh? It's a tall order, too much to expect. I would like everybody to be on page 1, literally, when we start. It's the Maimer we're learning. It's Tafshin Chav Beis. That's this year's Maimer. Chav Beis and Mem Beis. I got the contrace of Mishra Askan yesterday, but he brought into the house, so we're ready to go. So I hope we'll all be on board. We'll have to first learn the ois of the Frierdiker Rebbe. It's a dense ois. And then Yedem, I think it's a Russian word. It means forward. This image comes to me now, so I'm showing you with you on laser. There's a Bach in Australia. It's a shliach. So I remember, I used to do this a lot. I never heard it before since that the Pila Parish, I think it was Pila Parish, he was a hunchback. Pretty sure that's what he, and he would say, if I bring you whatever, this is a Russian word, just forward, make it forward. Yeah, the forward. No resting on the laurels. You failed, get up and go. You were successful, go further. Doesn't make a difference. Forward. This was a very inspiring figure for us. So he begins first with the Maimer of the, this is Yud Kislev, this Fabrenget. So it's all based on my bottom of the Mittel Rebbe. So he brings some Shari Tshuva. Why is the battle called Krav? Krav means near. Battle means enemy, not near, not Kiruv. The answer is because this is close combat. What kind of victory are you looking for here? Not vanquishing the enemy, but transforming him, Kiruv. And that's a different kind of battle. So what does that mean? It means that in davening, which is where the Shas Slois, Shas Krov, the Zohar says that the time of davening is the time of the battle, as we said before. Why is davening a time of battle? Because what's the battle? What's the whole war? The whole war is to get into our heads and hearts the truth, that the Eibush is the only reality, and to surrender our resistance and transform the resistance. So when's that battle of God's the only reality? In davening. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's the whole battle. Take Hashem Echad. You've got to keep on repeating Shema 3 times a day or 4 times a day, and daven 3 times a day, because our senses tell us, no, I'm also something. I'm not denying that God exists, but I'm also something. So the whole davening is to hammer away, to chip away constantly to the also. Never mind the opposition, just even the also. It's a endless battle till Mashiach comes. So in order to affect the mikrovli, these bondedness has to be, he says, this is the first level. It's not Gilei Chida yet. The end of Eis Aleph, it's the classic Avodah. The classic Avodah of transforming the Shabbat is engagement. Explain, argue, emotionally, intellectually, whatever the person's holding by the Nefesh Habamis needs to be convinced to do the right thing. Again, reward, punishment, this world, the next world, intellectual arguments, emotional arguments, whatever it is. The be'emes, it's got to be intellectual at the end of the day. To be convinced, you've got to understand. Why is this the truth? So that's what's required. But then, that's a milchama that we just described now. It's mikrovli. But here we're saying part of Beshalom. Part of Beshalom means no, that we're talking here about a kind of engagement that has this deep element of serenity and peace. And the Nefesh Habahamis does not offer resistance. Similarly, says to the bit of the way Torah refines the world, not to engaging the Torah. The sage sits in the Beis Medrash and makes a psak din, and the world conforms. The Gashmis. So this we're here too. We're talking about in the Vedas Atfilah, but a kind of milchama that, as he goes on to say later in the Maimah, it's still a battle. We're not tzaddikim, and yet there's this deep element of peace. So in the end, what does it come out? We're all with the benefit now of us having learned the Maimah to answer the question a little bit at the very outset. So is it a milchama? It's not a milchama. He asked the question himself. Pedia means I'm in captivity. Mikrovli means hand-to-hand combat. There's a stranglehold on my throat. And then at the same time, it's Beshalom. So what the Kuda is, what in the end is, as he starts off saying, because it starts off with the machshava, the awareness that I'm a Jew, Gila Yechid. So what does he say in those texts we learned this morning? that a Jew has to first be suffused with a conviction that the world is not the enemy. Nefesh HaBahamis is not in the enemy because everything wants to be elevated. Has to be. It's all God's creation. The only reason the concealment exists, the father hides, is so that he should be found by the child. So at the end of the day, there cannot be and there isn't ultimately resistance. Like the mashal of the Zoyna in Tanya doesn't bring it on in the others. That the king hires the harlot to seduce his son. She's a loyal servant of the king, so she uses all her guiles and wiles. Is that the term? Wiles, guiles. I think so. To seduce him because she does the job that she has to. But the pnimius nafsha, she doesn't want to be seduced. That's true of all nitzutzik dusha. But how is that unlocked? So how is that unlocked? What touches the world, the Nefesh HaBahamis, so deeply that says, I'm uncomfortable this way. I don't want to be like this. Change me, help me, is only Gila Yechida. What's Gila Yechida? Not because I'm smarter than you, and not because of any agenda that we have in our Yiddishkeit. So you got your agenda, I got my agenda, yours is stronger, you convince me, go along with it for today, tomorrow I change my mind. But if it's not agenda, it's the emes, I'm a Yid, which embodies there's an Eibishter in the world. That's the truth. In the face of that, this touches the core. Yeah, well, you've touched the part of me that resonates that I'm his creation and I want to be redeemed. That's the Nukud of the mind. Does that mean we're not going to still struggle? We still struggle. But it's a whole different kind of struggle. The struggle comes down to the end, always remembering this machshava, is hanging on to Yechida Meyid. This simple, humble I Meyid. In the face of that, all resistance collapses and more, this in the Nukud of the mind is unlocks within creation. I want to be part of this. In the words of the Tafshin Aleph Maimer, being very uncomfortable and unrested, disquiet in where we are right now, which is what the whole world is experiencing. Erev Mashiach, certainly. That's in the Nukud of the Maimer. And then you have sorry?
Isn't that a paradox with the Pad of Beshalom? Like on one hand, it's Beshalom, like Kibiram, like it's the Inyan of Yechida, but at the same time, it's unrest and not a moment of peace.
Yeah, so we see it exactly. So it's the constant reminder. We have to constantly remember that we're a Yid. This is what Yechida is. That's the constant battle, because we forget. So it's the constant to remember. So we're going to be facing these, the constant temptations and struggles and wars and fights. But if it's all predicated on this nekuda, I'm a Yid, a bit of a language that the person has, that in this self-effacing truth, in each battle that we face, it's going to be Pad B'Shalom. That'll be going on all the time. But Pad B'Shalom Nafshi. Try it. See what happens. The battles get upgraded too. It's not always the same old, but they could be. And sometimes actually they listen. It can even be a descent. As you did this. I thought I was over this. No, not. But in every battle, the Nukuda is, with what are you coming to fight with? You're coming to fight with, I'm a Yid. Davish is the only reality. He's your reality. What am I? So that's the battle, is to remember this. That's why we're davening 3 times a day, at least. That's why mitzvah tzitzis. Remember, if they have the tzitzis, or constant reminders, it's all really just remember. Don't forget what you are, what is true. And when that he says is part of Beshalom, then it's a whole different kind of battle. That's in the Nukud of the mind. Okay.